Hello, Bill.
Good afternoon, Matt.
Welcome to the DMZ, everybody. Hello from the Cleve. I flee to the
So where
Cleve.
are you exactly right now?
I am at the spring. I'm in an undisclosed location, but because this is where after I'm departed from the city, probably. I am at the Spring Hill Suites in lovely Independence, Ohio. Just a short Uber ride from Cleveland. So this has actually been perfect. It's about a $12 Uber ride, about a 15-minute drive. So it's pretty easy to get back and forth to downtown, but it's kind of nice to get away every once in a while and let your hair down. So
So
quiet.
before we get into the hard politics of perhaps the most bizarre convention of modern history, if not all of history, um, just what is the day to day for a conservative opinion journalist at a presidential convention?
All right, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm normal because I'm not. I probably generally work less than most people. Um, Basically, what I've been doing is, typical day. I'm getting up around 7 o'clock, leaving here. I'm sorry, getting up around 6 o'clock, leaving here around 7. Usually on CNN, a couple, 3 days this week. On CNN in the morning around 8:30. Do a CNN spot at the CNN Grill, which basically CNN rented out for a week, this restaurant, and that's where they're doing the New Day stuff from. Then I've been going to the conventions. Like I was there when they had the big, argument over the rules and should they do a roll call vote or just a voice vote. And I've been hanging around. It's the downtown is really nice. There's a really cool sort of like Freedom Plaza area between the Q, which is where the convention is, and the Cleveland Indians baseball park. And there's like bands that are playing outside there. There's little pop-up restaurants around there. Um, watching protests, and then I'm fleeing downtown typically in the afternoons. Like around close of business and coming back. And I've been watching these speeches on TV, which I think is the best way to watch
Because
them.
you've not been in the hall for the speeches.
I mean, I've intentionally not been in the hall because I could. I'm credentialed to do it, but number one, I'm getting up fairly early, not early, but I'm getting up fairly early. Um, and you just want to be able to watch them like the American people watch them. So that's how I'm doing. I'm a man of the people, Bill. Now, there have been a couple of, that's my typical day, a couple of highlights. First night I'm here, Sunday night, Jamie Weinstein, my Daily Caller colleague, and I, we go to dinner at this really good Italian restaurant called Luca's. And it just so happens that our boss, Tucker Carlson, was also holding court there with a large table consisting of many pirates, as Newt Gingrich would call them. And the problem with pirates is they like to be, you get too many pirates, you can't have a two-pirate ticket. So there were like 5 pirates at this dinner, so they would keep coming over. I think when they wanted some pirate attention, some of them would come over to my table with Jamie and I. So we ended up spending, I don't know, an hour hanging out and talking off the record. I can't talk about what we said, but it was Roger Stone and Alex Jones, and many glasses of wine were consumed, and I felt that was worth the price of it. Like just that experience alone.
I mean, you would not call yourself an Alex Jones type of conservative.
Oh no, no, but I mean that's kind of what made it so fascinating was that and like Matt Labash he was there that night. I don't think I'm giving anything away to just sort of say he was there. It was sort of a who's who and a motley crew. I think Labash actually ended up writing a profile about Stone But just, I mean, that alone, that's part of the reason I think to go to these things is kind of bumping into people.
Now that was Sunday before all the festivities occurred.
Yeah.
But as you are bumping into people, as you are connecting with various conservative pundit types, activists, other media folk, are you looking at this and saying, I am watching the end of a storied political party? You are watching the burning in front of your eyes, or what is the vibe?
I think it's still people are in shock. I mean, I can tell you, like, I was in, and again, I can't portray any there's sort of like implied confidences in green rooms and stuff like that. But I was at the Scene and Grill, sort of in the casual lounge area when Cruz this morning, which I think today's Thursday morning, right? So we'll talk about later what Cruz did at the convention, but he doubled down on it the next day. And I can just tell you, people were astonished. I mean, this is conservatives, liberals, moderates, you name it. I mean, I think people are more or less in shock. It's wild. I did run into a guy today, a fairly prominent conservative writer, who's sort of depressed and is not enjoying the convention because he realizes the implications of it. But then there's also the part that just loves excitement. I got to tell you, Bill, you go down there to the downtown part of Cleveland, and it's full of energy, and you're in the hall, and the delegates, and the music, and if you like politics, it's fun. It's like a Super Bowl. So there's like the juxtaposition of like the ending of the Republican Party and this complete schism. On the other hand, there's a whole spectacle. I'll give you an example of spectacle. I went yesterday morning. So Wednesday morning, I went to I'm wearing my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame shirt. I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for this Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner was there, introduced by Montel Williams, and just a really interesting, fun event. I walk out of the LGBTQ. It was literally held in a tent. It was called a big tent event, a tent at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Walk out of there, walk into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and bump into Ralph Reed. So, I mean, that's sort of like the last place you expect to see Ralph Reed. But, I mean, that's kind of what it is. If you've never been, I know you have, Bill, and we're going to both be in Philly. But for people who've never been, you could just be walking down the street. Oh, there's Ted Koppel. There's Charlie Rose. There goes Tucker Carlson. Or it's the circus came to town, basically.
So before we get to, this is Thursday afternoon. Trump has not spoken yet, so we can't comment about the final night.
He just did his walkthrough as we're taping this.
And before I get to the Cruz snub, leading up to that, the convention itself was unified. I mean, in large part because those who are anti-Trump didn't go. So the speakers are all, on point to the extent that you can be on point for a Trump affair, and the crowd is loving stuff. Maybe they don't stay late. Maybe people leave early because things aren't well organized. But they seem to be liking what's on the stage. But my sense of it before Cruz was it felt more like Rush Limbaugh's party than Trump's party. The locker up chants, the incessant attacking of illegal immigrants, and the general barrage of anti-Hillary stuff. Trump does that too, of course. But what's unorthodox about Trump is the trade stuff, and sometimes he might go off script on LGBT issues or foreign policy. Those sorts of things really weren't there for the first for any of this, really. It's mostly been just this visceral hatred of Hillary and immigrants. And so I'm curious, when you heard I know you're friends with immigration already. But when you hear the lock her up chants, are you there kind of clapping along? Yeah, screw Hillary. All conservatives, we all hate Hillary. Or is there a part of you saying this is too dumb to fail writ large? We're not getting into, I mean, as Al Franken said today, banana republic territory when you're trying to lock up your political opponents.
The problem is I'm nuanced on it. I mean, okay, so on one hand, I think that it's counterproductive. It doesn't help. I think that it's just it doesn't help Republicans. But on the other hand, I think so also along with the fact that it doesn't help Republicans, it's actually against the rule of law. In the sense that even though I think Hillary broke the law, we have to follow the sort of the chain of command and once decisions are made, we have to respect them, whether we agree with them or not. So
you are a traitor to the traitors in upholding the rule of law when we should be abrogating the rule of law to uphold the rule of law.
Yeah, exactly. It's very meta. But the other part of it, though, Bill, is number one, this isn't really new. I mean, Pat Buchanan, they asked him, I think in '96, what are you going to do what's the first thing you're going to do if you're elected president? And he says, probably turn around to William Jefferson Clinton and say you have the right to remain silent. Now, Pat was probably a little more tongue-in-cheek, and I'm sure that there's a longer history than even 1996 of this. And the other thing is, I try to be as much understanding as I can. Like, Matt Lewis circa 1992 would have probably liked the locker up line. You know what I mean? Like, and I wasn't a bad person. I wasn't evil, but it was fun. And, I like politics. It was fun. And it was about exciting people and getting people fired up. And I think Matt Lewis 92 would have liked that line and thought that, like, anybody saying, the hand wringing now was, wimpy. So that's where I'm
now at. You are. You're like, love me, I'm a liberal, but you should write, love me, I'm a conservative.
Yeah, it's.
I don't even know.
I think it might just be a matter of temperament, more temperamental than ideological, probably. But everybody conflates the two things. But anyway, long story short, I just think it's a waste of time. Like, I don't think it does anything productive, at least. So.
Okay, so let's get to Cruz. Let's get to the big story. I mean, no matter what Trump says tonight, it's probably the big story. What sort of struck me about the speech was, up until he says vote your conscience, it's a down the line Trump speech. I mean, it's not his style. It's not he's not doing a line this and crooked that, but he is hewing to Trump's positions. He even has, he says build the wall. He even has a line about we shouldn't be exporting our jobs. That's sort of a nod to Trump's trade position. So it's not like he is articulating a substantive disagreement with Trump in the speech. But at the very end, of course, he says, vote your conscience. The crowd starts chanting, endorse Trump. He makes a tongue-in-cheek comment about the enthusiasm of the New York delegation and says a few more lines and walks off. It feels, so on one hand, he's the one guy there who is, calling the whole spectacle to be an affront to decency. So in that sense, you say you walk out of here with some self-respect, unlike say Chris Christie. But it also feels much more like a personal animus, and which he basically admitted to the following day, talking about how he insulted his wife and his father.
Yeah,
totally understandable. I mean, I don't think you can blame a guy for that. But it's not like he is carrying the flag of the Never Trump movement that has substantive disagreement with him on trade, on national security. I mean, maybe you could say Cruz can argue he's more consistent on social issues than Trump is, but Cruz wasn't really making that argument at the time. And I think it's really more the free traders and national security folks who where Trump has gone most off message, party wise. Cruz isn't carrying that banner. So assuming his play is, I want to be the guy to pick up the pieces of the party after Trump gets hammered, he's not necessarily in a position to pick up those pieces because he's coming from a different part of the party. He's coming from a very Trump-like part of the party, just not the guy who was Trump.
I think it sort of depends on... I think you could view this as like a really heroic thing. He refuses to kneel to Zod, or it could be an example of selfishness and calculating Cruz, and a guy who he has a reputation that he can't play well with others, and he can't take one for the team. So I don't know how it shakes out. I mean, I know it hurts Trump, it hurts the Republican Party. And it certainly highlights the schism, the coming apart of the party. I think it's an open question as to whether or not it helps or hurts Cruz. I think that you could argue that either way, and we're not going to know. And even people today who are really pissed off at Cruz, 2 years from now, if Trump loses, may change their tune. It could be how everyone... everyone I met in of a certain age, everybody I met in Paris was part of the French resistance. It could be that 2 years from now, everybody was with Cruz at that convention, even the delegates who were booing him. So we shall see.
Well, I would argue that it hurts the Republican Party probably in a different way that you're saying right now. I mean, it hurts the Republican Party in that there is division on TV during a national convention, therefore the party is not unified and can't go into the general election strong. Yes, but Trump was already an inherently divisive figure, and with so many people not even at the convention, the division sort of baked in the cake. So I don't really feel like it makes it marginally worse than where it already was, but not fundamentally worse. What I think is the bigger problem for the party is the too dumb to fail problem. The party needs to have a true reckoning of where it is going ideologically and what policy goals it needs to pursue in the future. The entire primary campaign was bereft of that conversation. And to the extent that the party needs to get to that place, and maybe it can after Trump's defeat, if Cruz is the other pole, Cruz is not that guy. Cruz has never been the policy guy.
I think you're right, and I think that Cruz clearly wants to Cruz is clearly assuming that Trump loses, and he's clearly trying to be Reagan in '76. But I think the assumption that by doing this, he gets all the non-Trump vote is wrong, because some of the people that he some of the people who are now supporting Trump and are mad about this might have actually preferred Cruz originally, but they're party people, and they're people who are rooting for their team against Hillary. So Cruz potentially alienated or at least angered past supporters. Then some of the people who are anti-Trump people are very dignified people who don't like unseemly behavior. That's why they don't like Trump. Well, what Cruz did last night was rude and unseemly. So, maybe those people go to Ben Sass or Tom Cotton or someone else in 4 years, Marco Rubio. Maybe they don't. So, anyway, yeah.
You mentioned those names. Does anybody else come out looking good here? I look at Paul Ryan, who's been trying for months to carve out his own lane and to have his own special conservative agenda that is separate from Trump, to suggest that there is a conservative pulse beating no matter what happens. And I feel like what he's offered up has been really thin gruel. Gives a speech at the convention. Nobody cares. No one's cared about the videos that he puts out. No one is feasting on the policy papers that he's put out. Tom Cotton gave his speech. I think it kind of, it came and went. Pence obviously is playing for his own future. He gives a paint by numbers conservative speech mixed in with clearly a clear suck up to Trump. Christie is become a complete punchline out of all this. I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but you and others talked about this great deep bench of the Republican Party. It feels decimated now. And even the folks who aren't fully on the Trump bandwagon, I don't feel they've really brought an A game to say, I really have a great idea or ideas that can lead us out of this wilderness when we're all done.
Well, look, I think first of all, this looked like a great bench, but they weren't tested. And so some of them probably were overrated. And like, Chris Christie, for example, I think Rubio, now Rubio could come back, he could rebound, but I think he's taken a hit. I think Paul Ryan survives this. He is not, I don't think this has destroyed him by any stretch. But I think, Rubio took a hit from this cycle. I think Christie's done. But then there's others. There's Nikki Haley. There's Susana Martinez. It's a pretty, impressive. I mentioned Tom Cotton. I mentioned Ben Sass. Ben Sass is somebody who really is making a name for himself as the kind of serious, thoughtful favorite of sort of supplanting the Marco Rubio, Paul Ryan role maybe a little bit. So I'm okay with that. In other words, it's possible that Trump didn't cause underlying problems, but that he exposed them, and that some of these guys had foundations built on the sand to begin with, and and I think Chris Christie just has a character problem, in my opinion, that I'm glad we found out about. Hey, I might have, what if he had run in 2012? He might have won. Maybe it's a good thing we found out that we can't trust Chris Christie. So.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long, and I have a busy plate before I have to go to Philly. I'll be in Philly for the Democratic convention, as I think you will too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So obviously Hillary's been loving this. She's been sending out trolling tweets. She sent out a tweet last night, said vote your conscience. They had a tweet. They have a video with all the wonderful things Trump has said about her over the years. They had an event today with Cory Booker and Al Franken and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, where they're calling the convention ugly and lamenting the entire tenor of everything.
I will say the vote your conscience thing is such a weird non-endorsement thing. And then the other one was Scott Walker, another one of the erstwhile rising stars. Scott Walker's line was "We can do better" or something, which is
Democratic theme,
right? But maybe I'm paraphrasing. It might not have been "We can do better," but it was something to do with is this as good as it gets? And I'm I know he meant to say about Hillary, but it does seem like he's talking about Trump. We could do better than these two candidates. So anyway,
Now, a number of the polls that have come out lately, I mean, the polls are still kind of a mix. And you don't see a lot of polls with Trump leading. Some have Hillary's leads being pretty solid, and some are quite close in some of the swing states, or even the general poll. So it's, the average is still in her favor, but not running away with it yet. We haven't, and of course, we won't be able to fully trust poll numbers till both these conventions are back to back. We'll have to absorb them. You might have to wait until second week of August where you really feel like where the race is going to settle. But if you're just being clinical and looking at the numbers as they stand, you wouldn't assume Hillary has it all locked up. Then you could take the more, qualitative assessment saying this whole thing's a total disaster and I got nothing to worry about here. And so on top of that, she has Bernie's endorsement. There's going to be no platform floor fights. She's leading into her VP announcement, which is going to happen either probably tomorrow or Saturday. And all of the chatter is not about picking a Bernie-like populist like Elizabeth Warren or Sherrod Brown. These are safer, more mainstream picks. Tim Kaine, Tom Vilsack, the ag secretary and former Iowa governor. Vilsack is an outright supporter of TPP. Vilsack was the head of the Democratic Leadership Council, which were the right-leaning centrist types from the Bill Clinton days, which is the enemy of the whole Bernie narrative. Kaine has never been considered as right-leaning as that, but he has elements. He's from a swing state, and he's been for offshore oil drilling off the Virginia coast, for example. He voted for Fast Track, which is a precursor to TPP. For those guys to be leading the pack in the chatter would suggest that she is not really worried about where the Bernie votes are going to go. And even there's some talk about, even though Bernie's on board, there's some talk that some of the Bernie delegates are going to raise a bit of a ruckus during the convention. All the body language is to say, no big deal. We got this. Do you think Hillary is taking a risk in not catering to the Bernie camp more than she has so far?
That's a good question. I need to bone up on this before I take my talents to Philadelphia. I'll hold off on answering that question. But I would say that I think that Trump could still win. I think that if you're betting, you bet on Hillary. I've been saying this for months. But I think it's within the realm of possibility that Trump wins. And I think it's partly because Hillary's a very bad candidate. She's not very well liked. She's not trusted. And she's not very charismatic. And I think that Trump is such a Trump card. He's a wild card. We don't know, the turnout models. I don't think you can sleep on this race.
We're now in mid-July. You've seen the convention. You've seen the utter disinterest in any sort of general election pivot. Do you think he can win running like he is running so far?
Well, I think it is interesting. If you look at the Melania thing and some of the other, even not vetting Cruz's speech, not insisting that there's a sloppiness, and that sloppiness could cost them states. They're not going to have a great turnout operation. They're not going. So, there's so many reasons. There's demographic reasons why I think Hillary will probably win. There's just sort of organizational, logistical reasons. I think she probably will. But having said all of that, there's something going on in the country right now. And, 7 out of 10 Americans are not happy with the direction. Hillary's the status quo. She's the dynasty. Trump is the change agent. There may be an effect, sort of a Bradley type effect. I don't even know what we call it, where people are sort of unhyping their support of Trump, downplaying it. So
if you're Hillary, and I'm basing on your premise here that there is this, there's still this unsettled feeling in the land, a desire for great change, populist fervor, do you, and the distrust perception lingers over Hillary. Does she need the game change VP pick to and generate that excitement and make people feel like this is not just going to be a status quo campaign? Or does she do a version of what Bill Clinton did, double down on your own brand? She was on Charlie Rose saying, I like that Tim Kaine is boring.
Yeah,
he's won every election and he's boring. What's wrong with that?
History. She's going to be the history. I think she has to go boring. A do no harm pick, because like I say, I'm betting on her right now. I think if all things being equal, nothing crazy happens, she probably wins. Trump went with a boring pick. I think it's going to be. It's going to be Kaine or Vilsack probably. That's a smart move. And if I was advising her. Now, granted, I'm, certainly I could be accused of some ideological bias here, but just putting on my strategist hat, there's really like two dramatic, different, paths. She could go the path where you try to like turn out your interest groups and your base and gin them up, and that's the Barack Obama model. That's the Karl Rove 2004 model, or there's the sort of Barack Obama 2008 model. Which is to try to sort of be more optimistic and a uniter. Now, I think he ended up not living up to that. But if I were advising Hillary, I think I would go down trying to sort of be that unifier, that uniting positive force, because it's a stark contrast to Trump. Instead of pandering and catering to the base. So, but I'm sure that most of the strategists are giving her the opposite advice.
Oh, I mean, you don't think they're giving her the boring advice? I mean, that seems to be where the direction is going.
I think they are. Yeah, but I think that there's almost a conventional wisdom nowadays that you can't persuade anybody, that we're so polarized that elections are all about turnout, and that's just such a destructive.
I don't think that is where the Clinton folks are going. I mean, I think they are aware that the pool of swing voters is probably narrowed, but she has never run a strictly base turnout campaign. If anything, she's always been drawing. I mean, she has leaned farther left perhaps than she wanted to go in the first place, but. There's always certain lines she was not willing to cross, and was willing to say, "Look, I'm not going to just go as far left as is humanly possible. I gotta think about what's feasible, what's practical, and if that means I gotta say something that's unsatisfying to the hard left, well, so be it. And the VP pick, assuming that it is a Kaine or a Vilsack type, is the final conclusion of that. I mean, they gave them a lot, the British a lot in the platform, but there are certain lines they were not willing to cross. So I think they still feel like there is a swing vote to worry about, and it's not just run as far left as possible and never look back.
Well, let me just say it's been an amazing year, and when I think about, we've got the whole Democratic convention. We've got 4 debates. We've obviously got an election night. And
you think Trump shows up for the 3 debates?
I'm surprised he hasn't started walking it back already. I thought he would only do one.
We're still a couple months away. I mean, I don't think we've had the debate over the debates dance yet.
Well, the funny thing is, you know how it's going to be, right? It's somebody reports that Paul Manafort and breakfast floated the idea that Trump might only do 2 debates,
Right.
And then it's Newt. Look, frankly, I don't even know why he needs to do anything other than 1 debate. The American people, and the next thing you know, it catches fire. So, by the way, I thought Newt's speech was very underwhelming. That was one of the worst. The only thing good about it was when I love when he tried to explain what Ted Cruz meant. That was a good moment.
Why would you do that?
Well, my argument for why Newt should be the Veep is that he was good at explaining stupid stuff that other people did and sort of making it sound, making it sound plausible and intellectual. But then he just got so negative, and and not, the thing about Newt is he's got this joy and this, even when he's fighting and being mean-spirited, he's happy. He's like, I remember the debates in 2012 when he was running for president. The debate went in and he would just stay there at the podium in front talking to people for like an hour. Everybody else was like, get me out of this, I'm exhausted, get me away from these reporters. And Newt just like loves people and loves ideas. And that did not come across during the speech, I felt.
I'm sorry your prediction did not come true.
Let's not remind people about that, that didn't happen. Just let that one.
I can't be the only guy here who gets predictions wrong. You gotta take some hits too.
Well, all right, I got it wrong. I still think Trump wanted Newt. I still believe that Trump wanted Newt. That's my belief. But you're right.
A lot of the presidents they wanted Christie.
I know. I don't buy that bit. I got it wrong, so it's fair to call that out. And remind me of this when I do, if and when I do my year-end piece about the year-end Matt Lewis screw-ups and bad predictions that put this one in.
I will do my best.
All right. Do I take a nap or hit the treadmill? That's the question. What's healthy?
Well, have a great last night in the Cleve.
Yes.
And I will see you in Philly, and we'll figure out a way to do this in Philly.
All right. Have a good one. Well, adjoining hotel rooms is the way we do it. We can't be in the same room. Doesn't work. All right. See you guys.